Praise Jesus, everybody. Thank you for joining me on this show and this broadcast. It is 12:05 p.m., right afternoon, March 6th, Wednesday, 2019. And I want to share with you a conversation that I had, my son and I, Michael Tobin Jr., yesterday while driving to work. Seems to be the only time that I really get a chance to do some recordings, and if I'm fortunate, if I wake up early enough, we work till midnight, so you can understand the challenges of working 9 to 5, but it's really till midnight, and trying to do your passion. So the title of this broadcast is American Media Tactics and Hashtag Walk Away. And in order to keep this short, I'm going to go ahead and get right to it, all right? This is mainstream American media tactics. And I use a description that I heard from Dan Bongino, which is brilliant. I could have come up with so many others, but I really like this description. So I take you into yesterday's conversation about mainstream media tactics and the new movement called Hashtag Walk Away. So what the media does is they ask you, how often have you beat your wife? Just as an example. How often have you beaten your wife? And the person will say, I've never beat my wife. And then what the media does is they play that clip from some candidate or somebody that they're interviewing, and they'll insinuate that the person is guilty. And this is the question that Dan Bongino put forward as his example. It's just a brilliant idea, and you can actually Google yellow journalism. When's the last time you heard the word yellow journalism? But this is a description that Dan Bongino so effectively conveyed about how the media traps who they want to trap just by asking a simple, irrelevant question, and then they can turn it around and turn it into a big scandal for whatever their reason. So I take you back to our conversation, and I won't interrupt anymore. Conversation from yesterday. Because being on the defensive is a sign of guilt.
Okay.
That's how crafty they are. So, say they ask me, how often do you beat your wife? I mean, if I was to answer, I would say something like, I'm a little confused on why you would ask such a question like that. So then what the media would do is they will play that clip of asking a question, but they won't. They'll edit out the part where I said I'm confused, and they'll say, and then Michael Tobin mumbled something. It was incomprehensible in defense. And they'll go on with their point, with their riffraff. When I was in college, it was well known that the mainstream media, their target range, or who they appeal to, are people with an 8th grade mentality. 8th grade. That's middle school or junior high. When I was growing up, they had way more middle schools than they did. No, they had way more junior highs than they did middle schools. Okay, here I am. And interrupt one more time. See, when I was in college, it was junior college, and thank God it was junior college because I had it up to the top of my head on what public colleges were about, even back then. So from 1995 to 1997, And I actually got it just under 2 years. I got my associate's degree with a 3-point-something average, B average, pretty good. But the media, according to references, recorded, valid references, the mainstream media in the United States appealed to an 8th grade mentality back then. So a couple decades later, who knows what the mentality, I don't even know if they even have it categorized as a mentality. Who is the media? It just baffles me, an 8th grade mentality. But I take you back to this conversation once again, and I won't interrupt again. Now, they don't even, I don't think there's anywhere that calls a middle school junior high anymore. That's another subject. But there's this movement called Walkaway, and it's hashtag Walkaway. And I wouldn't even have known about it if I wouldn't have been. Yeah, where did I hear about that? The Mark Levin Sunday interview show. He was interviewing this former liberal gay white male. And during the election, he talks all about how he was terrified because that's all he heard on the news.
Okay. And
then one of his loved ones, somebody that was actually his babysitter when he was a baby, she's a born-again Christian, she emailed him a video of just one thing that the media was using as an accusation against Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And he was kind of, bummed out. He didn't want to watch it, but he ended up watching it, and it almost became like a conversion experience to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an epiphany to him. And it was the one where during the presidential campaign, they were saying that Donald Trump was mocking an epileptic journalist.
Okay.
Like his hands were like little tiny dinosaur arms flapping up and down,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So that was the clip that he watched, and he watched the whole clip. And what the media deliberately skewed was the fact that he was descripting a person who is groveling.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Who does not, when they're in a passionate discussion, when they use the word groveling, they're not going to be swinging their hands around. Everybody's Italian whenever you say the word groveling,
Uh-huh.
But the media is sick, and all the way up to the 2016 campaign and elections, from 1989 when I got into radio, it was like a light bulb turned on.
Mm-hmm.
I became their producer, and my goal before getting into radio, which was very fortunate, I just walked into it, Christian radio, for 5 years, started in 1989. And the message then was the liberals are working towards doing this.
Mm-hmm.
if they get their way with this.
Okay.
And the liberal media, everybody was saying, "Oh, they're all paranoid. They're all paranoid." Now, because of the warnings, when I happened to have started radio, and this is happening within 5-year periods, even now,
Uh-huh.
just from Obama's 2 administrations till now, every time they, the liberal side of politics tries to get something, get the ability to whatever their bill is for,
Uh-huh.
they say that the people who are predicting certain things that are going to happen are crazy. They're nuts. But now every single prediction is going on right now.
Yeah.
But by the time it was Obama's turn to first run for president, nobody had listened. Nobody knew nothing. So now, all of a sudden, since 2015, during all these campaigns till the election in 2016, all of a sudden everybody started becoming an expert on everything that nobody listened to from at least 1989, as far back as 1989.
Okay.
And all I could do is just picture and see it as a day late and a dollar short. So everything that you see, by the time it hits the media, it's already too late, because everybody is a day late and a dollar short because they just don't read. They everything they get, it's either from the radio or TV. They don't even read a physical paper, a magazine or a newspaper. It's bizarre. It's almost like nobody reads anything. But on social media, it's like there's tons of people that are informed now, and they're constantly battling. It's like a religious war. They're constantly battling everybody, you know, that are arguing with each other, calling each other names and stuff. And it's exactly what's going on CNN, ABC, and Fox. Fox makes me mad because they have the biggest idiots in the universe as guests. And their commercials, during their commercial breaks, those commercials are expensive.
Yeah.
They're expensive. So they're literally giving the idiot sphere free airtime.
Okay.
And people are paying tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the time of the year or some kind of a sports event. People are paying for advertisement.
Yep.
During the breaks between all this idiocy. So it is. If people could begin to understand that they're being duped, a perfect step for them would be like that hashtag walk away.
Yeah.
But because of this guy, he watched that one video that his babysitter gave him. Knew him since he was a baby. That opened up. That just snapped in him.
Okay.
And there's tens of thousands of Democrats and liberals, and it doesn't matter if they're black, Latino, minority, white, gay, or straight. There's tens of thousands of them now that are followers on his Facebook site alone, and they're and mainly Democrats. They're all walking away from the DNC, Democratic National Convention. So all I could do is just pray and hope that all the people that are suddenly experts because they Google everything, that they're not a day late and a dollar short. And from 2011, I guess 2009, Facebook was super popular. I think it came out in 2006. I waited like 3 years before I got a site.
Okay.
It's amazing that since Facebook, that's what it took, and MySpace, you know. And I want to interrupt one more time. That was a fleeting thought. I lost my train of thought when I was talking about Facebook. In about 2006, I started. I got my first MySpace site, And it wasn't until 2009 that I got a Facebook site. But from 2009, I up until the last presidential elections, I was web searching dozens and dozens of news sites with Patriot in their titles and things like that. And it took me all that time to weed out what I call fake patriotic sites, because and it's so simple. I almost felt like a doofus, because I was weeding out sites based on what their other articles that they had on their websites, and they're crazy articles, and they were mostly, I hate to say it, but they were racist sites. So I was weeding out all those sites. And now, fast forward, we're talking about all this collusion and the media hype over it all. What it really boils down to is the Russian collusion is really independent Eastern European news sites were pummeling the website, the internet, with all these political revelations about the Democrat side of the party, mainly Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, and Hillary. So they were pummeling the world with political revelations, and that is what the Democrat National Convention is so against. And they're trying to say that the now Trump administration was involved in colluding with the actual Russian government to have all of this media focus, independent media focus. They're trying to say that Donald Trump and people in his administration colluded with the actual Russian government. And it's going to last at least for the next couple years. But it actually took me a long time. So I am a former radio station production manager and news director, and the best of us can get fooled in so many ways. But if you seek the truth, you will find it to a certain extent when it comes to media. So it took me several years actually to narrow down my news sources to just a few. And the main thing that told me whether these people were legitimate in their motives or not is just look at the advertisements that they have on the websites. Women with bikinis on and overweight, or pictures of sea cucumbers that look like a male anatomy part, all kinds of weird stuff. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to. Look at the things, the weird things that they're advertising for their income. So I'm like, no, if that's all they could get, I just don't want to go to people's websites for news and see all this weird stuff as their advertisement. So that was pretty much a good litmus for me, as well as what I talked about, a couple minutes ago, their advertisement. So that was a fleeting thought, and it took me several years to weed out all the good from the bad. So in this coming election, wherever you're at, your state, your county, your city, consider the source. You really have to investigate and research the things that all of their contributors actually believe. So I take you back into this conversation one more time. You got to take a few seconds to remember the name MySpace. Now, it's been so long. But people, there's no excuse. Everybody, pretty much, should have some kind of opinion now. Which is even weirder than when we were complaining that nobody's listening. Well, what if everybody was listening? oh my God, it's chaos.
Yeah,
It's chaos online. But when you talk to people in the general public, they're like, oh, I didn't hear that. I don't watch the news. What?
It's like when you're telling me that
So
you don't get very many listeners.
Most people aren't even all bent out of shape over all this stuff.
It's like when you tell me that you're not getting very many listeners, but how many people actually listen to your radio?
Oh, I know. Well, who listens?
Listens,
Quality is always better than quantity.
Yeah, it's like who is listening to your show?
Yeah.
And who are they sharing it with?
And
because when they download it, they share it with other people.
It's interesting you bring that up because I've been thinking, it's like, my God, here I am complaining that I don't have the number of listeners that I would like, but what if I did get the number of listeners? And then what happens, your listener base exponentially grows, and I'm like, oh my God, I have more trolls than I do like-minded people.
Uh-huh.
And they're all cussing me out and cussing each other out.
Yeah.
So, so I don't want a bunch of listeners. It's good you bring that up because it helps me conclude that fleeting thought, because it's been a fleeting thought.
But if you're not getting many listeners, what about the possibility that there are people in the government who would want to keep that under wraps? People who want to keep that as quiet as possible.
Keep what as quiet as possible?
What you talk about on your radio.
Oh, no. Oh, I know. You want people to know about certain things, and that's why the point of your show is to present to people things that are going on about them.
Uh-huh.
And after everybody knows, it's like it sets off a ripple effect, and you don't know what that effect is going to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of people I often think about, they talk too much. Just because you're a podcaster, a news director, or a newscaster, news reader, nowadays it's not even news. It's the anchor person's own dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
These people get paid so much that they actually demand that they don't be told what to say, what they can talk about, and what they can't talk about.
Okay.
So it's not journalism anymore.
Okay.
So what's happening is basically, in a nutshell, all these people that are out screaming are just like that guy that founded #WalkAway.
Okay.
They're scared.
Yeah.
Because they're being taught that from elementary all the way through college and universities.
Okay.
And that's how you react when you believe the cards are being stacked against you.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that #WalkAway, people are learning. I think everybody knew about #WalkAway except for me, you know. But that's a good example on media.
Mm-hmm.
Media's MO is, their modus operandi is literally to misrepresent and scandalize.
Okay.
And aid and abet the scandalous in government.
Okay.
All right, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and keep this short. I've taken enough of your time already on media tactics. Got a couple of few things to ponder on and food for thought. So, hey, thank you for joining me on this broadcast, American Media Tactics, #WalkAway. Google it or go to Facebook and in your search, type in, the pound symbol, walk away, and learn about that and see how tens of thousands of people are walking away from the liberal side of thought